It started. Like I said, I'm an analytical person by nature. I don't like to. I'm not one for social convention. I don't like to do things strictly because that's what I was told to do. Now that being said, we all fall into some, societal. You can call them traps, or you can call it convention, where we just follow a path that's set out for us, whether it's career, whether it's family, whether it's diet, whether it's ritual. Um, for myself, I have a very. I'll keep it short because this could be a long thing. But when I was growing up, my younger brother was vegetarian, and I was not nice to him about it at all. I was posing those. I was reasonably clever, so I would pose those questions which he didn't know how to answer, and it. I never really thought about it. I was raised in a household with parents that ate, that were omnivorous. They ate meat, and I remember I was working at a summer camp when I was 18, and I had a good friend of mine, a fellow musician, working in the kitchen, and I was doing maintenance, and he asked me to switch jobs with him, and I said why, and he said, well, I have a real hard time handling the meat. And this was the first time, because he was an equal of mine. He was a friend. It was someone whose opinion I respected. I said why, and every reason that he gave me in terms of the ethics behind it, I agreed with. I had just never really thought about it. I had never considered it as a real thing. So I thought about it. And at the time, I was raised a good Catholic boy. I said, okay, I'm going to give up meat next Lent, so the following March. And I said, if I can maintain a reasonable health, I'm going to stick with it. Next March, I did it. And I was healthy, and I felt good. So I did. Now, I was also involved in the independent music scene in Ontario, and there are a lot of people who, there's a lot of counterculture there. And veganism at the time, I guess this would be around 20 years ago, would be considered counterculture. Now it's mainstream. But back then, I, I think I knew two vegans, and a handful of vegetarians. And I started looking into veganism, and I kept giving myself all of these things, reasons why I couldn't do it. Oh, I don't know how to cook. I'm not going to be healthy. All the kind of typical things that people ask someone when they ask someone who's vegan. Well, how do you? And I did an experiment. I started pulling things out of my diet, but not in like a harmful way. I said, okay, instead of having milk with cereal, I'll have rice milk. Instead of having ice cream, I'll have sherbet. And slowly, over the course of a month or two, I was a quasi-vegan without even knowing about it, without even realizing it. And I remember in the summertime, I was working at that same summer camp, and I had an ice cream bar, and I actually felt guilty.
Mm.
I felt I felt that this isn't something I should be doing, so I said maybe I should really consider doing this. A month later, I was taking I guess you would call it a personal development course out in British Columbia, and I met a 78-year-old vegan named Merton who was a teacher in Alberta, and I said, well, if Merton can do it, I can do it. And on the spot, out there in Salmon Arm, BC, in the middle of nowhere, I went vegan. And I got home, and I was still living with my folks at the time, and I said, I'm really serious about this. So my mom said, okay, well, let's look at our family recipes, and let's see what we can do. Because I had already done some homework about what the dietary requirements were. I mean, for me now, I went vegetarian in March of 2001, and I went vegan in September of 2001. So it's been basically, I guess, 19 years since I've intentionally had any meat.
It happens sometimes, right?
There are some, yeah, things happen. But I do very much care about my personal health. Like I've gone through waves where I weighed a little bit more, weighed a little bit less, or I've exercised more, exercised less. But especially now, at the age that I'm at, my health really matters to me. Now that being said, I definitely indulged on the weekend for my birthday, but I've been on the rowing machine for the last 2 days, and it felt awesome.